Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that has completely reshaped our world. It's the story of the computer. From a simple counting tool to the superpowered devices in our pockets, this journey is nothing short of incredible. So, how did we get from counting beads to creating artificial intelligence? Let's find out. Our story starts way before electricity. Think ancient times. Humans have always needed to count things, crops, animals, you name it. One of the earliest tools for this was the abacus, invented thousands of years ago in Mesopotamia. With its beads on rods, it was a surprisingly efficient calculator. For centuries, tools like the abacus were the peak of computing technology. Fast forward to the 17th century. The Industrial Revolution was kicking off, and calculations were getting more complex. A brilliant French mathematician named Blaise Pascal invented a mechanical calculator called the Pascaline in 1642. It used gears and wheels to add and subtract numbers. A few decades later, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz improved on this, creating a machine that could also multiply and divide. These were the first clunky steps toward automatic computation. But the real visionary, the man often called the father of the computer, was Charles Babbage. In the 1830s, this English mathematician dreamed up two revolutionary machines. First was the difference engine, designed to automatically calculate mathematical tables. He even started building it, but it was incredibly complex for the time. Then, he conceived of something even more groundbreaking: the analytical engine. This wasn't just a calculator, it was a general-purpose computer. It had a mill for processing, a store for memory, and could be programmed using punched cards. Sound familiar? That's basically the structure of modern computers. Working alongside Babbage was Ada Lovelace, a brilliant mathematician who saw the true potential of the analytical engine. She wrote what is now considered the world's first computer program, imagining that the machine could create music or art, not just crunch numbers. An incredible vision for the 1830s. For nearly a century, Babbage's ideas remained mostly theoretical. The technology just wasn't there. Then came the 20th century, and the world was plunged into conflict. World War II created an urgent need for faster, more powerful calculation machines for things like breaking codes and calculating missile trajectories. This is where electronic computers finally enter the scene. In the UK, Alan Turing and his team at Bletchley Park developed the Colossus, a machine used to decipher encrypted German messages. It was one of the world's first programmable, digital, electronic computers, and it played a crucial role in the Allied victory. Meanwhile, in the United States, John Mogley and J. Presper Eckert were building the ENIAC, the electronic numerical integrator and computer. Unveiled in 1946, this thing was a monster. It filled an entire room, weighed 30 tons, and used over 18,000 vacuum tubes. These tubes were like tiny light bulbs that could act as switches, but they generated a ton of heat and burned out constantly. Programming the ENIAC was also a nightmare. It involved physically rewiring plugs and switches, a process that could take days. Still, it was 1,000 times faster than any machine before it. The invention of the transistor in 1947 at Bell Labs was the game changer. Transistors did the same job as vacuum tubes, but were smaller, faster, more reliably, and used far less power. This kicked off the second generation of computers in the 1950s and 60s. Machines like the IBM 7090 were built with transistors, making them smaller, cheaper, and more powerful. Suddenly, computers started to become a viable tool for large businesses and universities, not just governments. But the revolution didn't stop there. The next leap forward was the integrated circuit, or the microchip, invented in the late 1950s. This tiny piece of silicon could hold thousands, and eventually millions, of transistors. This was the birth of the third generation of computers. It made them even smaller, faster, and more affordable. Computers like the IBM System 360 were a massive success, establishing a standard for computing that businesses could rely on. This miniaturization led directly to the fourth generation, the microprocessor. In 1971, Intel released the 4004 chip, which put all the components of a computer's central processing unit, the CPU, onto a single chip. This was the final piece of the puzzle needed for the personal computer. The 1970s became the Wild West of the PC revolution. Hobbyists and garage tinkerers started building their own machines. Then, in 1976, two guys named Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak founded Apple Computer in a garage. Their Apple II, released in 1977, was one of the first commercially successful personal computers. It was user-friendly and came pre-assembled, opening up computing to a whole new audience beyond hobbyists. In 1981, IBM, the giant of mainframe computing, jumped into the personal computer market with the IBM PC. Because they used an open architecture, other companies could make compatible hardware and software. This created a huge industry and led to the Wintel dominance of Microsoft's Windows operating system and Intel processors that lasted for decades. The 1980s also saw the introduction of the graphical user interface, or GUI. Instead of typing text commands, users could now click on icons and menus with a mouse. Apple's Macintosh, released in 1984, popularized this intuitive way of interacting with a computer, making them accessible to almost everyone. Of course, the story of computing isn't just about the hardware. It's about how we connect them. The Internet, which began as a U.S. military project called ARPANET in the 1960s, became publicly accessible in the early 1990s. Sir Tim Berners-Lee's invention of the World Wide Web, with its browsers and hyperlinks, turned the Internet from a tool for academics into a global information network for everyone. And that brings us to today. We've moved from room-sized machines to devices that fit in our hands. Smartphones are more powerful than the supercomputers of a few decades ago. Cloud computing lets us access immense processing power and storage from anywhere. And now, we're on the cusp of the next great leap: artificial intelligence and quantum computing, which promise to solve problems we can't even imagine today. From the abacus to AI, the history of the computer is a testament to human ingenuity and our endless desire to calculate, communicate, and create. It's a story that's still being written, and we are all a part of it. What do you think the next chapter will look like? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the technology that shapes our world. See you in the next video.